What if the food you put on your plate, believing it to be healthy, was actually destroying your body little by little every single day? Lentils, so often praised as a superfood, hide a dark side that almost no one knows about. A simple mistake in preparation can turn this grain into an invisible poison, silently corroding your body from within. I am Dr. Ana Esperanza, a specialist in clinical nutrition, and today I will reveal secrets that the food industry would rather keep hidden. Stay with me until the end, because only then will you discover the forgotten practice that can forever change your relationship with this food. Lentils have always been presented as a symbol of nutrition and balance. In diet books, in superficial medical recommendations, in glossy health food ads, they appear as a promise of longevity and vitality. But what almost no one dares to say is that when prepared incorrectly, they can carry something that silently undermines the human body. This hidden face of lentils doesn't appear on food labels, nor in cheerful influencer videos, where the same cliches are repeated over and over. It is an invisible poison, discreet, silent, leaving no obvious trace at first, but over time, capable of draining your energy and leaving scars deep inside. Beneath their seemingly harmless shell, lentils contain substances known as anti-nutrients. Among them are phytates, which reduce the absorption of essential minerals like iron, zinc, and calcium. The result? You might believe you are feeding your body, but in reality, your cells are starving. You may feel virtuous eating a hearty lentil stew, but your body may be screaming in silence, robbed of the very minerals it needs to function. A bowl of poorly prepared lentils can become the key to an endless cycle of fatigue, brittle nails, thinning hair, and irritability. The eater believes they are strengthening their health when in truth, they are slowly sabotaging it. Another hidden enemy inside lentils is lectins. In excess, these molecules can provoke subtle yet persistent inflammation in the gut. Picture this. You eat a meal thinking it will energize you, but instead, it seeds invisible micro-lesions throughout your digestive tract. These small wounds don't produce sharp pain. They don't appear on basic tests, but they drain your vitality day by day. It's as though each spoonful of improperly prepared lentils carved hairline cracks in your body's defenses, weakening the most important barrier of all, your gut lining. The damage doesn't appear overnight. It builds slowly, drop by drop, like a slow leak of poison. At first you notice only vague symptoms, a little bloating, unexplained tiredness, headaches that come and go, difficulty concentrating. Doctors dismiss it as stress. Friends tell you it's normal, and all the while, the real culprit is hiding in plain sight. Lentils, the superfood you are told to eat more of. The paradox is cruel. The harder you try to be healthy, the more damage you may be causing. And here lies something even more disturbing. Not everyone experiences the effects the same way. For some, the reaction is immediate. Digestive distress, fatigue, discomfort. For others, the symptoms lurk beneath the surface, accumulating quietly over years. This variability creates the most dangerous illusion of all. It doesn't affect me. But the invisible poison doesn't discriminate. It simply works at its own pace, waiting patiently until the cracks widen. Ancient peoples understood this danger instinctively. Civilizations from the East to the Mediterranean had specific preparation rituals that went far beyond simply boiling the beans. Long soaking, repeated water changes, natural fermentation, slow cooking. Each step served to neutralize what we now call anti-nutrients. These practices weren't optional. They were essential, passed down from one generation to the next. But in the age of speed and convenience, we abandoned them. We traded wisdom for haste, tradition for instant gratification. And in that trade, we opened the door to harm once again. Imagine a grandmother decades ago, carefully rinsing and soaking her lentils overnight, changing the water at dawn, simmering them gently until their aroma filled the home. She wasn't simply cooking, she was protecting her family. Now compare that to today. Vacuum-sealed packages branded ready in minutes, tossed into electric cookers without thought. rushed meals consumed in front of screens. The ritual is gone, and with it, the shield against the silent toxin. What's most terrifying is how subtle the consequences are. Unlike food poisoning, there is no sudden fever, no vomiting, no dramatic collapse. Instead, the symptoms creep in quietly. Chronic fatigue, vague digestive complaints, skin dullness, hair thinning, a restless mind that can't focus. And because these signs are so easy to dismiss, they get misdiagnosed as stress, poor sleep, or aging. Meanwhile, the true source, a poorly prepared bowl of lentils, remains invisible, and digestion is only the beginning. Recent research suggests that improper consumption of legumes may affect the hormonal system over time. Hormones regulate everything: energy, mood, sleep, immunity, even desire. Imagine the delicate machinery of your endocrine system, each hormone like a cog in a finely tuned clock. Now imagine those gears grinding slowly, eroded not by industrial chemicals, but by a food you believed was your ally. Day after day, meal after meal, the invisible damage accumulates. The food industry knows the truth, but silence is more profitable. It is easier to market lentils as a flawless superfood than to remind people of the old ways, telling consumers to soak overnight, to wait, to discard and replace water, to cook slowly. That doesn't fit into the glossy promise of quick health in a shiny package. And so the story is simplified. Just boil and eat. But convenience has a cost, one you may already be paying without realizing it. Consider this. How many people complain of constant fatigue? How many quietly accept digestive discomfort as normal? How many live in a fog of irritability, believing it is simply modern life? What if, for some of them, the truth lies not in stress or lifestyle, but in something as deceptively simple as lentils cooked the wrong way? Take Emily, for example, a fictional character, but a reflection of countless real lives. She switched to a plant-based diet, convinced she was making the healthiest choice. Lentils became her daily staple. At first, she felt proud of her discipline, but within months, she struggled with bloating, brain fog, brittle hair, and a weariness she couldn't shake. Doctors prescribed supplements, suggested more rest, even hinted at depression. But no one asked the simplest question: how were her lentils prepared? Emily's story illustrates the most sinister part of this puzzle. The trust we place in so-called superfoods blinds us to their dangers. When we are convinced something is purely good, we let our guard down completely. That is when the invisible poison strikes hardest. And so, we return to the paradox. Lentils can indeed be powerful allies. They contain valuable fibers, plant proteins, minerals. But those benefits exist only if the old rules are respected. Without proper preparation, the cure becomes the toxin. The same food that sustains can also corrode. The question is not whether lentils are good or bad. The real question is, are they prepared in a way that turns them into medicine or into poison? And believe me, what you have learned so far is only the beginning. The deeper truth, the one that has been buried and forgotten, is far more unsettling. Because what comes next will reveal just how thin the line really is. If you already thought lentils were hiding dangers beneath their reputation, prepare yourself. The truth that comes next is even more disturbing, because the risk isn't only about nutrient loss, it lies in the invisible reactions your body develops when repeatedly exposed to this food prepared the wrong way. Every grain that hasn't gone through the proper process carries compounds that disrupt your metabolism in ways too subtle to detect at first. Tiny imbalances accumulate until one day the system simply breaks. One of the most treacherous effects hides in the digestive system. The gut, meant to be your ally, becomes a battlefield. What begins as mild bloating, a few cramps, or occasional gas evolves over time into chronic inflammation. The body, trying to defend itself, releases inflammatory substances that don't stay confined to the abdomen. They travel through the bloodstream, reaching joints, skin, and even the brain. The result is a constant state of low-grade inflammation that ages you from the inside, while on the outside, you still look like you're eating healthy. The unsettling truth is how normalized these signs have become. How many times have you heard someone say, after a lentil meal, It's just a little bloating, that's normal. No, it is not normal. It is your body raising a red flag, a signal we've been trained to ignore because the world insists lentils are a flawless superfood. And this warning isn't new. Long before modern science, ancient communities understood the risks. Their wisdom was not theoretical. It came from generations of painful lessons. One story comes from a small village in the Middle East. For decades, even centuries, the people suffered from a mysterious ailment. Their bodies weakened for no apparent reason. Fragile bones, relentless fatigue, a sorrow that weighed heavily on them. Imagine narrow streets where silence hung heavier than laughter, where children no longer played, where families whispered of curses in the night. The sickness seemed like an unavoidable shadow. Then came a healer, not a man of wealth or status, but one who observed closely. He noticed a strange pattern. Some households were less affected. Their elders lived longer. Their children had brighter eyes. Their women carried themselves with more strength. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't divine favor. It was a forgotten ritual. These families soaked their lentils in running water for hours, sometimes days, changing the water again and again. They fermented them in clay jars, then cooked them slowly over low fire. When the healer persuaded the entire village to adopt this method, the transformation was undeniable. The exhaustion that had seemed like destiny began to fade. Children once pale now chased each other barefoot in the dust. Old men once bent and broken began to walk upright again, their voices resonant. Women who had watched loved ones waste away now sang while preparing meals. The curse had never been from the gods. It had been hiding inside the very grains they ate every day. Imagine the shock of realizing that the source of both their suffering and their salvation was the same bowl on their table. The line between food and poison had always been there, invisible, waiting to be discovered. But history has a cruel way of repeating itself. The warning passed from mouth to mouth was eventually buried beneath the modern world's obsession with convenience. The wisdom of patience was dismissed as superstition. And so, once again, the door was left open for the invisible toxin to return. Fast forward to today. The setting has changed. Apartment blocks instead of clay houses, supermarkets instead of village markets, nutrition blogs instead of elders' advice. But the story is hauntingly familiar. Take Daniel, for example, a fictional man, yet a mirror of so many real lives. Determined to improve his health, he embraced a strict vegetarian lifestyle, proudly making lentils his daily foundation. At first he was triumphant, lighter, sharper, convinced he was on the right path. He even shared recipes online, becoming a voice for healthy eating. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, his vitality slipped away. At work, focus vanished. His once sharp mind felt fogged. At home, his partner noticed his constant fatigue, his irritability, his distance. Sleep no longer refreshed him. Small aches grew into constant stiffness. When he looked in the mirror, the proud glow he once felt had dulled into lifeless eyes. Doctors tried to help. Blood tests, supplements, vague reassurances. Stress, they said. Age, perhaps. But none asked about the way he prepared his food. None realized that Daniel, in boiling lentils quickly every night, was quietly poisoning himself with his own discipline. And Daniel's story reflects something larger. As a society, we've normalized deterioration. Fatigue, everyone's tired, anxiety, that's just modern life. Digestive discomfort must be stress. But what if these normal conditions are not normal at all? What if they're symptoms of forgotten practices, erased in the name of speed? Modern science offers clues, though wrapped in careful language. Research suggests prolonged exposure to anti-nutrients disrupts the gut microbiome, the microscopic world inside us that governs digestion, immunity, and even mood. Think about that. What if your irritability, your sadness, your exhaustion were not just in your mind, but born from something as mundane as a bowl of lentils cooked too quickly? And hormones, too, are not spared. Certain compounds left active in improperly prepared lentils can interfere with the delicate orchestra of endocrine function. The result is not immediate collapse, but a slow unraveling. Your energy ebbs away. Your sleep no longer restores. Your passion, once natural, fades into absence. Bit by bit, life loses its spark, and you never suspect the food you trusted most. But the greatest danger is not only in the damage, it is in the silence. Centuries ago, soaking, fermenting, and slow cooking were unquestioned rituals. Today, packages promise ready in 10 minutes. Labels show smiling families, not the truth. The shield of tradition has been shattered, replaced by the shiny mask of convenience. And ignorance sells, so the cycle repeats. Blind trust, hidden poison, slow erosion, and a society that calls this collapse normal life. But don't be deceived. What you've learned so far is still not the darkest truth. There exists a secret threshold, fragile, almost invisible, that decides whether lentils heal or destroy. This forgotten line, erased from collective memory, is the true frontier between strength and decay. And it is precisely at that threshold that the most disturbing revelation awaits. Lentils are celebrated as one of the crown jewels of modern nutrition. Packed with protein, fiber, and minerals, they've earned their place as the ideal meat substitute in vegetarian diets, secured a role in weight loss programs, and been recommended by health professionals around the world. No one can deny it. When prepared properly, they offer remarkable benefits. They can regulate digestion, provide steady energy, and support cardiovascular health. On the surface, lentils seem like the perfect food. And yet, here lies the most chilling paradox. How can something so nutrient-rich, so full of promise, also conceal risks so profound? What makes lentils mysterious is their dual nature. They are both healer and destroyer, medicine and toxin. They walk a razor's edge, where a single detail in preparation determines whether they give life or slowly take it away. Imagine someone who does everything right. They exercise regularly, avoid processed food, fill their plate with colorful produce, and, proud of their discipline, they pile lentils into almost every meal. They believe they are fortifying their health, but in reality, they may be fueling an invisible process that drains them. The paradox is cruel. The harder they chase wellness, the closer they come to decay. What's more disturbing is that not everyone feels the same effects. For some, the impact is immediate: bloating, discomfort, fatigue. For others, the symptoms hide in the background, building silently for years before revealing themselves. This variability feeds the most dangerous illusion. It doesn't affect me, but the invisible poison doesn't discriminate. It simply waits, patient and relentless. The human body is an extraordinary machine, but also fragile. Confronted with small, repeated aggressions, it eventually breaks. Poorly prepared lentils don't trigger sudden collapse. They corrode slowly, like rust spreading through metal until it shatters from within. On the outside, you may still look healthy, but beneath the surface, the damage is growing. And this isn't just about digestion. Some studies suggest that improperly prepared legumes may even trigger autoimmune responses in predisposed individuals. The body, in trying to defend itself from strange molecules, begins to attack itself. What starts as mild inflammation can spiral into complex chronic conditions that are hard to diagnose and nearly impossible to reverse. Think for a moment. How many modern illnesses we call mysterious might have roots in something as deceptively simple as a mistake in the kitchen? How many people spend fortunes on supplements, therapies, and medications without realizing that the real culprit is sitting quietly in their bowl of lentils? And yet, here lies the perfect trap. The benefits are real. Lentils do provide fiber, protein, and minerals, but those gifts are only unlocked if the grain has been properly prepared. Without the ancient rituals of soaking and slow cooking, those same gifts turn toxic. The same seed can be medicine or poison. Everything hinges on a fragile, nearly invisible line. For centuries, that line was respected. Ancient cultures knew preparation was not optional. It was survival. Today, we live under the tyranny of speed. We demand quick fixes, instant recipes, shortcuts for everything. In that rush, we've erased practices that protected entire generations. And so, The body whispers warnings we ignore. That fatigue after a meal, that sudden irritability, that foggy head in the afternoon. We explain it away. Stress, work, the weather. But what if these are not random inconveniences? What if they are quiet alarms, signals of an invisible enemy we've been trained not to see? Even those who claim, "I don't feel anything," may be deceived. The body is clever. It adapts. It hides damage for years, shouldering burden after burden until the day it can't anymore. That's why so many people think they're fine, until one day, a sudden diagnosis shatters the illusion. The invisible poison never hurries. It waits. The dilemma is clear. Are lentils heroes or villains? The answer is as terrifying as it is simple. They are both. They carry the potential to nourish or to corrode, to heal or to harm. The outcome depends entirely on whether or not the hidden boundary is respected. To understand this duality, imagine Clea, a modern woman swept up in the superfood craze. She replaced traditional meals with lentil salads and stews, proud of her commitment to clean eating. In the beginning, she felt lighter, sharper, even superior in her discipline. But soon the shadows crept in. Sleep left her restless. Her moods swung without reason. The sparkle in her eyes dulled. Specialists offered pills, supplements, advice, but none considered her preparation methods. Only when she returned to forgotten rituals of soaking and slow cooking did her health begin to return. Claire realized the terrifying truth. It wasn't what she ate that had been corroding her, but how she ate it. Claire's story is not rare. It represents an uncomfortable truth. Blind faith in superfoods may be the greatest trap of all. Labels, trends, influencers. They promise life, but they often hide half the story. And in that blindness, we let our guard down. We trust too deeply. And that is when the invisible poison seeps in. And Claire is not alone. Think of Marcos, a professional athlete who prided himself on his disciplined diet. He consumed lentil soups daily, believing they gave him strength. For a while, his performance soared, but then fatigue set in. Recovery slowed, and minor injuries lingered longer than they should. Trainers pushed him harder. Doctors suggested supplements, but no one suspected the food he trusted most. Only later, when he changed how he prepared his meals, did his vitality return. Marcus learned that discipline without knowledge can be just as dangerous as neglect. Or Anna, a busy mother of 3, to save time, she relied on quick lentil meals she believed were nourishing her children. Yet she noticed they were often tired, moody, and struggled to focus. Teachers suggested stress or lack of sleep, but the truth lay in the rushed meals she proudly served. The poison hadn't struck suddenly. It had been dripping into her family's life, meal after meal. These stories highlight a truth bigger than lentils alone. Our society has surrendered wisdom to convenience. We traded rituals for shortcuts, patience for speed, knowledge for packaging. And in that trade, we invited danger back into our kitchens. Now you know, there is a critical detail, a hidden threshold that separates the cure from the toxin. And that threshold is so fragile that a single mistake can push lentils into their darkest form. The question is, how many will keep ignoring this line until it's too late? Because in the conclusion, you are about to uncover exactly that, the forbidden detail, the lost secret that changes everything. Throughout this journey, you've uncovered the disturbing duality of lentils. They can be a source of vitality or an invisible poison, depending on a single forgotten detail. And now you are probably asking yourself, what exactly separates healing food from a slow, silent toxin? The truth is unsettling in its simplicity. It's the preparation. This is what determines whether lentils will nourish or corrode you from within. Ancient peoples knew this instinctively. That is why they soaked the grains for long hours, sometimes overnight, changing the water again and again. That is why they fermented them in clay vessels, then cooked them slowly over gentle heat. These weren't just quaint traditions. They were shields, invisible layers of protection against the poison hidden inside. Today, in the rush of modern life, those shields have been cast aside. We toss lentils straight into a pot and believe a quick boil makes them safe, but it doesn't. Convenience has erased wisdom, and in that trade, we've sacrificed safety. The secret to transforming lentils into true allies is patience. Soak them for at least 12 hours. Change the water. Cook them slowly and thoroughly. These steps, so simple yet so overlooked, form the line between nourishment and decay. What the world calls an old-fashioned ritual is in reality the dividing line between strength and weakness, vitality and erosion. And here is the most disturbing part. The industry will never tell you this. Labels won't warn you. Recipe books and influencers won't mention it. Admitting the truth would shatter the glossy myth of lentils as a flawless superfood. It's easier and far more profitable to let you live in ignorance, even if that ignorance means slow damage to your body. Now the choice is yours. You can cling to the modern illusion, trusting convenience and speed, or you can embrace the truth that an invisible poison hides in plain sight and only knowledge can disarm it. This decision may seem small, but it defines everything. It is the thin boundary between chronic fatigue and renewed energy, between decline and resilience. And don't forget, this revelation is bigger than lentils. It is a window into something far greater. How many other foods, celebrated as healthy, hide secrets that few dare to reveal? Today, you've uncovered one forbidden truth, but this is only the beginning. I want you to write in the comments, "Now I know the truth," because this is the moment you step out of blindness and into clarity. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, because here we expose what no one else dares to say. But before we end, hold on to this thought. The invisible poison never disappears on its own. It hides in your rush, in your trust, in your blind faith. Only those who know the secret boundary can turn danger into strength. And now, you know that boundary. From this day on, the choice rests entirely in your hands.